And welcome everyone to a Monday afternoon looking at the AP Top 25 and the Power 36, the first Monday here of the college basketball season in 2020. All right, let's get after it. And then, of course, we will take your questions if you've got some here in the back part of our conversation. AP and Power 36. First of all, a little explainer here. I'm starting to deal with a lot of results, like everyone else, and a lot of now the Power 36 is starting to mirror what I think would be close to seeding. And we're going to have a bracket next week for you all to digest right after the College Football National Championship between Clemson and LSU. All right, so at the top of the Power 36, and a lot of this is based on how you're playing at this moment and who you're playing and where the games are. And that's why Auburn dropped just a little, okay, from 2 to 5 in my rankings, because I started to settle in about, okay, where is Auburn right now? Still undefeated. Who are they playing in comparison to these other teams? Still top 5, still potential number 1 seed. So here we go. We got Gonzaga, Kansas, Michigan State, Duke, Auburn, Baylor, San Diego State, Butler, Florida State, Oregon. That's my top 10. AP poll, pretty much the same teams as I'm looking here, just in a little bit of a different order. So, we both agree on Auburn, Butler, a little high, San Diego State were the same. I'm a little higher on Michigan State right now because of the way they're playing this last week. So very comparable. Things are starting to work their way out. Okay, now let's go to the next group of 10. West Virginia had a lead at Kansas, so I didn't really drop them that far. Kentucky played much better basketball. Penn State, I think right now you could argue, is the third best team in the Big Ten. They are not ranked in the AP Top 25 right now. Maryland, very comparable. Dayton, comparable. Marquette, I'm high on. AP not. Marcus Howard with a big win over Villanova. Villanova doesn't move at all in the AP poll. Okay? I don't get it. I dropped them to 21. I'm high on Arkansas. I'm looking for Arkansas. Paging Arkansas. Don't see Arkansas. I got them. Seton Hall. I think right now you could argue right behind Butler, they're the second best team in the Big East. Don't see Seton Hall. Michigan and Memphis, same ballpark. Villanova, I'm a little lower on than they are. Houston won the Diamond Head Classic. I got them in the top 25. Same with Wichita State. Same with Texas Tech. Ohio State is interesting. I dropped them down to 25. They lost to an unranked Wisconsin team at home. I know Kyle Young didn't play. They barely dropped in the AP poll. I think there has to be some penalty for that. Let's go to the second grouping. Arizona, Louisville. Louisville is at 13 in the AP poll. Okay? I want to stress this again. They're 1-3 in their big games this season. You got to have some penalty for that. So I dropped them to 27. Arizona, they're back in for me in my Power 36, so 24-26, pretty much close to the same thing. Wisconsin, big win at Ohio State, so I'm giving them some love at 28. Iowa almost won against Penn State in the Palestra. I'm bringing back LSU, bringing back Virginia after the disastrous South Carolina loss. They hammered Virginia Tech. Washington was out. Now they're in after knocking off USC by 30 on Sunday night. VCU playing much better basketball. They're back into my 36. Xavier split the week, kept them in there. BYU, look out for the Cougars. Okay? They're playing really well right now. And Georgia, which knocked off Memphis. Colorado, which I've been high on all season, they beat Oregon earlier in the week. Great win. Then they lost at home to Oregon State. So, it just negated it for me right now. They had a chance to sweep that and be right there, as a potential top 25 team and, right there to stay in check in the Pac-12. So I kind of dinged them for losing at home to the Beavers. All right, let's take some questions. Grant Yanni, once again, Arkansas can't crack the top 25. There are 17 in my power 36, 24 in the net, 10 in the RPI. I don't get it. Where is Arkansas? Eric Musselman. Doing great. Okay, James says, how is Duke behind Michigan State and Kansas? Well, you're going to come back to me and say, wait a minute, they beat both teams. And they did. At Michigan State and at Kansas. This is a snapshot right now, how they're playing. And even though they played really well and beat Miami, I'm looking in the last week, okay, those two teams, Kansas and Michigan State, played better teams. Kansas beat West Virginia, Michigan State beat Michigan. So I'm splitting hairs here, putting Duke at 4 versus 2 with Kansas, Michigan State. Right now, Duke, Kansas, Gonzaga would all be number 1 seeds. And Michigan State probably would be on the 2 line. And then I have to look, is it Auburn, is it San Diego State? That would be the 4th number 1. So, Michael, you say there's no logic in why I did it. I just answered your question. No, how do I feel about West Virginia? I think they're going to be right there with Baylor, Kansas, and Texas Tech. Baylor's got a monster week, Dylan. Texas Tech and Kansas this week. Woo! Ridiculous. But you know what? If they lose both, they could beat both those teams at home. So I don't think there's any problem with that. Let's see here. What's the chances of Virginia making the Final Four again? Asks Manny. I don't think great, because offensively they've really struggled. So I'm going to say no, but they are playing better this week. All right. Stephen Decker says, how many ACC teams do I think will get in the tournament? All right, so you got to do this off the top of my head. All right, here we go. Duke, Florida State, Louisville. 3 locks. Virginia will make it 4. After that, a lot of bubble. Will it be NC State? Will it be, can Carolina somehow come back after their rocky road right now? Could it be Syracuse? Could it be Notre Dame? It's going to be tough. I mean, I got 4 locks right now. That's all I can say. Betsy, calling me names. Here's the deal, Betsy. And I got to educate you on something here, okay? You say, how can I put them behind 2 teams they beat? All right, so let's take your logic here. How can Michigan State be ahead of Kentucky? Well, Kentucky lost at home to Evansville. Who did Duke lose to at home? Stephen F. Austin. So it doesn't always work that way. Just because you beat a team in November or December, early December, that you're automatically ahead of them. So let me tell you this. At the end of the season, you could get a scenario where Michigan State is seated higher than Duke on the 1 line, hypothetically. And I'll tell you why. Because Michigan State's going to play more quad 1 games in the Big Ten than Duke will play in the ACC. The strength of the Big Ten is better than the strength of the ACC. Just a hypothetical. So you can call me names all you want. I'm just telling you the way it works. It doesn't always have to be, because you could say, wait a minute. How can Gonzaga be ahead of Michigan? Michigan beat Gonzaga. Why is Gonzaga 1? Why is Michigan 19? So it's not strictly, did you win the head-to-head matchup? It's always body of work. Dave Hall, what do I think about Dayton? Dayton is going to be a team that's going to make a run toward the Final Four. Obi Toppin, who joined me on the March Madness 365 podcast, tremendous talent. He's got a chance to lead Dayton pretty far. Matt, calling me name again. Appreciate that, Matt Maynard. Doing this a long time. You'll have a good. Mike Jackson, doing this for 30 years. So obviously you've not been paying attention. Okay, a lot of hate out there today. Settle down, people. Not that big a deal to where you need to get this angry. Who will win the SEC, Casey says. Well, is Arkansas going to be this year's LSU and sneak up and get a piece of it? Maybe. I mean, the odds are for Auburn and Kentucky. Dustin wants to know why is Marquette not in the top 25. That's a great example. So Betsy and Mike and all these other people calling me names. Marquette beat Villanova. They're in my power 36. Hey, people, where are they? They're not in there. So there you go. Ryan, how will Texas Tech do the rest of the season? So they're in a groove right now. Jemias Ramsey's healthy. They're defending. They're scoring better than they did earlier in the season. They got that shelf-life win against Louisville and New York. So there is no reason to believe that Texas Tech cannot be right there, finish 1, 2, 3 in the Big 12, and make another deep run. Mark wants to know about Nick Richards. He's playing great for Kentucky right now. Great example of someone who didn't need to leave. Okay? There's been some bigs that have left Kentucky too early. Nick Richards, could he have been drafted somewhere? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, he just wasn't on everyone's draft board. But he's got the size, and so he might have been. But he stayed. He got better. When you go to the NBA, if you're not a lock, you want to go to where you can contribute and have a chance for a second contract. That's the goal, unless you are a lock for the lottery, top 20 or something like that. So Nick Richards, he made himself better. Pam, I did answer about West Virginia, but I'll say it again. Oscar Tshiebwe, Derek Culver, love their front court. Backcourt's playing much better. It's young. That's why I kept them high. I got them at 11. They were right there with Kansas for the first, 25, 30 minutes. Eric, Big East looks like it's the deepest conference. I ranked them so far this season. I don't think there's no gimme game. Every night in the Big East, you don't know who's going to win. Let's see. Linda, where's Purdue? Not in there. They scored 37 points yesterday against Illinois. Adam says Cam Reddish just stayed. I agree. Jamie McCoy, how bad is Nebraska? It's a total rebuilding year. Fred Hoiberg's got a long leash. They're going to give him plenty of time. Let's go for 2 more minutes here. Do 15. Thoughts on Maryland? Look, I was down on Maryland after losing to Seton Hall without Sandro and Miles Powell. But the way they played against Indiana, if that's the Maryland we're going to see going forward, that's the Maryland team that can get to the Final Four. Michael, asking about Penn State's weight in the Big Ten. Right now, I think you make a strong argument. If you were to do Big Ten power rankings, I would go Michigan State 1, Maryland 2, Penn State 3 in this snapshot in time. See if they can keep it up. How close is Richmond to the Power 36? Connor says. Thought about them. They're in that next grouping. Marshall, thoughts on Wichita State? I think right now Wichita State and Houston are in the pole position to win the American, with Memphis in that next tier with Cincinnati. Wright State, Dustin, yes, they're playing very well on the horizon. Steven wants to know my best pick for point guard. Ooh, it's a great class. Cole Anthony would have been right there, but right now I got to go with Cassius Winston. He's the best point guard right now. Will VCU win the A-10, Tim? I'm going with Dayton. Who's the biggest surprise, Kurt says? I think it's Butler. San Diego State's right there, 1A, but Butler has to be the biggest surprise. Gino, can Auburn win it all? Probably not. Butler can get deep. They can get to the Final Four. Adam, do I think Duke can win the national championship? Can they? Yes. Am I going to predict it at this juncture? No. Let's see. Is there a dark horse nobody's talking about in the Big Ten? Illinois. Still love Illinois. See if they can get consistent. And there's a question about Kobe Coburn. I love him. So there you go. All right. Appreciate all your questions. 99% positive. Appreciate that. If you want to take some shots, hey, this is the forum for it, I guess. Anyway, Power 36, you can check it out on NCAA.com and March Madness. Our player of the week, Cassius Winston from Michigan State. Our team of the week, best win last week was Wisconsin at Ohio State. So our team of the week was Wisconsin. We've got the March Madness 365 podcast. Steve Lavin, my good friend, joining me. Obi Toppin from Dayton. Miles Powell from Seton Hall will also be on there, plus my predictions and my ranking of the top conferences so far. So plenty to digest in the first few days of the week. I had an interview with Cassius Winston yesterday on Sunday after their win over Michigan. Check that out as well. As always, appreciate all the engagement that we get here at March Madness. I'm Andy Katz. Thanks.